Thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today. Obviously, as mentioned when we first spoke, my name's Giuseppe. I'm responsible for all of technology and transformation for Empiric Solutions, which is a global technology staffing recruitment business. In my day-to-day role, I'm responsible for the SAP practice and our growth of that business globally. So as part of that, really keen to have a conversation with yourself and get a feeling for how you view the market, its trajectory, and the impacts that you see that having over the next few years. If you could give us an insight into yourself and your role, that'd be great.
So, David Lowson, my job is to look after the largest SAP accounts at CapGemini. So we have 120 accounts, which are very big. I try to grow the SAP business within them, securing the work that should be ours, winning other projects. That gives me a unique view globally, I think, of what's going on in the SAP market, because I got 3 customer calls today. So I see a lot of different clients in different parts of the world. I guess my background is far more large enterprise than small and medium. I've been doing SAP for more than 30 years, starting off on R2 and then being there for the first wave, which is very similar to today, the R3 wave, but I'm now there for the S4 wave. And I started off as a programmer and then as a consultant, then moved quickly project program management, solution architect, and then into management roles. And I've survived in those roles for the last nearly 30 years. I've been at Gemini for 20 years, and I started off in growing a specific account we just won, and then I moved through being the SAP practice manager to an interesting period when I looked after SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, and a few other product technologies, which taught me an awful lot about how everybody views the world and how they all fit together, and then a European practice management role, and then a global practice management role, and then taking my current role at the end of 2023. So that's what I do. I guess my specialist subject is I know a little bit about lots of things, not a vast amount about anything in detail. So don't ask me about what BAPIs are available in this area or something like that. I won't know, but I will know a lot about global trends.
Brilliant. Oh, a really impressive career today. What actually got you into SAP in the first place?
I was a pretty appalling engineer. I was a production engineer, and I was the scrappiest production engineer in the world. I think I did a degree in it, and I got a job as a proper engineer, building things, making things. And when they decided to put in a ERP solution, and they selected between JD Edwards, Mapix, and SAP, and eventually chose JD Edwards. I was on the panel that did the selection, and they said, "Do you want to move onto the project?" And I did that. This is 1989, 1990. So I did that project. And then they gave me a choice. Do you want to go back to engineering, or do you want to continue rolling out JD Edwards solutions around the world? And I did that. And that's when I learned ERP. And it was really because I was such an appalling engineer. I've been good at it. And I'm sure I'll be calculating cutting angles and doing economic batch quantities to this day. But fortunately, I wasn't. So I went into the world of ERP and SAP. And I joined an SAP consultancy, having done JD Edwards. And I just always worked on the principle that if JD Edwards did it, SAP would do it. And if JD Edwards really should have done it, SAP would do it. So my knowledge transferred very easily. And I was up and running within days. It was great. So that's how I got into it.
Well, amazing. Interesting story. Have you got a funny or memorable kind of early career story other than being a scruffy, poor engineer?
Yeah, I think some of the worst things I've done, unfortunately, you make mistakes on your early clients. I did park my car at a site in the UK when I parked on the main line railway, no, not main line, a branch line railway track, because it was snowy. And I got there very early in the morning, and then I got shouted at because I'd actually stopped a train. And then I also stopped deliveries of a product by putting in stock not allowed to zero. Somebody tried to issue the goods, it stopped doing it. And then I arrived at work because before mobile phones, and there was maybe 20 or 30 38-ton lorries all queued up waiting for their dispatch notes to come out so that it goes to their customers. And I realized that as I was driving up the A up to the northeast of England, because I'd not seen any lorries going the other way. And I was so nervous when I got there, and I realized I was going to get shouted at by lots and lots of lorry drivers, and also that the materials they were making were just spilling out onto the floor because it was a chemical plant. Memorable, funny, maybe not for them, funny, not for me, but I look back on it and go, oh dear. So if somebody said, don't want my stock to go negative now, I would probably say, please do. So you learn from all this stuff. Yeah. I also delivered an awful lot of materials to a accounts office in Glasgow because I got confused between the billing addresses and the ship to addresses on a go live. And that, again, was not a great story for the customer. These were early days. So I've done that kind of thing for many years.
Learned, right?
Yeah.
So look, with regards to SAP and the future, what do you see as the biggest driving force in the industry right now?
S4 is driving the growth in the market and everything else that comes along with it. So BTP, Rise, the move to cloud, Signavio, all those things are being driven by the move to S4. There's 30-something thousand SAP customers in the world, and they will have to move across by 25, 27 or 2030. And you simply have to work back from the date they have to go live to work out when they've got to start. And the biggest ones have to start first. Some of the global chemical firms, some of the global pharma firms, the aerospace firms, they had to go first. And that drive has made the market grow incredibly strongly, double or triple in size. And we've still got an awful lot of the mid-sized companies. And when I say mid-sized, many of them turn over more than $1 billion. And then an awful lot of small customers still to go. At the same time as they're doing the S4, there's the move to a Athena system with less bespoke in it to get rid of that, which is bad practice from the past. There's the move to BTP, there's the move to Rise, the hyperscalers. So all those things come into play, but the basic driver is the move to S4, and that may continue for some time.
For anyone who's watching this who maybe isn't aware of S4, in the simplest of terms, what is S4?
S4 is so SAP has gone, as ancient history, but in the 80s and 90s, there was a product called R2, which was written for mainframes, which had lots and lots of tables in it to allow it to work because you had to make it work on a mainframe and computing power wasn't so great. And that persisted for an awful long time and it ran on multiple databases. SAP then launched HANA, which was a database which ran in memory, which is very fast. And then in 2016 or 17, they launched S4 HANA, which is a rewritten version of the old SAP R3, where the tables are much simplified. You didn't need them anymore, where everything is in memory and everything works very quickly. They also opened it up so you could extend it using APIs rather than having to write code within the core. So it's much faster, it's much cleaner, it's much simpler, and you don't do the differentiation within the core of the product. You do it outside using APIs. And so it's really a completely different concept. So the opportunity is to have something that moves incredibly quickly, which runs everything, the end of batch processing, where you don't have to use the old UI. You can do whatever you want, make it look nice, and you can attach it to whatever you want using APIs. So it really is a totally new philosophy. EC was put in by, something like 85% of the largest companies in the world run on SAP ECC. And it was put in reflecting how business was done in 1994. There wasn't the internet. We didn't have global trade. We shipped out great big containers that took weeks and weeks to get the next place. There wasn't batches of one and configuration. So a lot of the setups are not what people need now. So it's become a bit of a drag on businesses, and SAP S4 allows you to sort all that stuff out.
Yeah. Fantastic. How do you think that's then shaping the future of SAP?
You mean the technology talent industry? If you look at SAP, there's an opportunity that 30 years ago, there was a lot of competition with SAP. Realistically, you had Oracle, you had JD Edwards, you had PeopleSoft, you had Bar, and you had all sorts of stuff competing with it. Pretty much SAP has emerged as the default large ERP solution. If you make something or do something complicated, service something, maintain something, SAP is a very good answer. And people still use things in some places, but SAP has become the dominant technology within 30 years ago. So that's changed for a start. SAP is now moving, so it is everywhere. So that's going to happen. How's it going to change, and how does it shape that? So it used to be one thing, used to be one ECC box, which you did everything in. And then it started having things stacked around the edges, like planning software, procurement software, HR software, and things like that. And that was a big change. And those have now been, by and large, re-platformed by SAP to be far more integrated and far more cloudy. And then the extensionability of SAP, where you do the new stuff, is now done with Business Technology Platform, not with ABAP, which used to what you do in the middle. And so when you now move to SAP, you have to accept the cloud. You have to accept a more agile approach, because business used to move quite slowly. I think business has speeded up 3 times in the last 10 years. So how do you actually design something that's going to be fit for purpose in 10 years' time? You used to be able to do it. Can't do it anymore. Business has become far more connected to a piece of equipment or customers or whatever it is. new business models like as a service or Internet of Things and things like that. So SAP's had to change. So you've got a simpler core, which is fast, which you have to understand. It's going to be connected to a lot more things. It's going to be far more integrated using cloud products, and it's going to be touching customers directly and pieces of equipment directly. It used to be more B2B. So you have to understand end-to-end processes, not just what's going on in SAP. You have to understand the whole value stream from one end to the other. You have to understand how it all integrates together and fits together. You have to understand data in a massive way. Data used to just be an SAP, didn't do stuff with data. You have to understand all that. You have to be prepared to innovate and experiment and try new things, fail fast, rather than just document everything, design it, build it, launch it, hope it works. Now you actually do it far more iteratively. Yeah, that's the future. And hopefully when everybody's on S4 with a cleanish core and a lot of cloud around it, then SAP is going to be far more at the heart of any digital business going forward. So as those businesses evolve, they will evolve as well. Yeah, the SAP system will evolve and people will be doing more with it. So my hope is it's gone from something that's a bit old-fashioned and static to something that's very dynamic and supports the business going forward. So that's really what I think your recruits and your people, your talent that you're looking for have got to focus on. And that's how they will really differentiate from other people and also have an interesting career, not just a sort of financially lucrative one. I think if they can actually get into that sort of end-to-end, fast-moving cloud approach, then they're going to have an interesting life and a long career and a lucrative career, I would say.
No, brilliant. And thanks for that insight. And we'll come on to the kind of more specific things around the skills market and talent later on in the interview. In terms of the current market landscape, you've talked about loads of the great things that SAP can do and how it's evolved over the years and continuing to evolve. But as you view the world right now, what do you see as the key kind of strengths and weaknesses of the current SAP landscape and market?
It has changed a lot in terms of its approach and strategy over the last few years. So it used to be run by Bill McDermott, and he took over essentially a German company, and he brought a lot of sales nous and a lot of focus on growing. And he did that very successfully, but he did that by and large by buying products around the side of SAP and selling to the SAP install base. That was really what he did. And then a few years ago, Christian Klein took over, who's an SAP lifer, and he was more from a development area. And he's taken it in a subtly different direction in that he has focused on the technology, making sure everything integrates together, moving to the cloud and making sure that it's a proper platform for doing things. And that has gone down incredibly well. And the arrival of Rise and Grow, which are their cloud offerings for large and small customers, has really hyped up the market and also increased the share value of SAP and made it a very dominant thing. A few years ago, there were people thinking, well, why have I got SAP? Couldn't I do something else? Now people are moving to SAP because of that strategy, and people are utilizing more of SAP because of that strategy rather than less. So I think that's really good. So in terms of a plan, I think the SAP strategy is strong. I think there's still a lot to do with the product extensions, the old industry solutions that are available, where you can do new stuff with it needs to be worked on very quickly, and the other products that need to be done. They've done some good procurement. They brought Lean IX and Signavio, which are two projects you need to implement SAP. They fit really nicely with the portfolio. So I think they've got a good strategy. I think they made some good acquisitions. They've got a lot of stuff to do to convert their mindset from being on-prem to cloud. And I know that change is going on. And then, of course, there's the evolving AI thing, which I can't do anything without talking about AI. But clearly, SAP and AI are going to be important. And I think that fight is going on, whether you use the native SAP AI or the dual or the embedded AI, or whether you use a third-party large language model or something like that, and how that all fits together and how the data moves about. So I think that's coming. The weaknesses of the current SAP market, I think people underestimated how difficult it was to re-implement SAP when you moved from ECC to S4. I think everybody thought it was just a simple upgrade. It's not. It's a change program. And when you put in SAP originally, you put it in bit by bit. You put in finance, then you put in supply chain, and then you did another factory or something like that. It's quite easy. Now you're taking something which is quite integrated, which is global, which is very complicated. It's probably quite bespoke, and then trying to swap it out. And I think that's proving to be more of a challenge than people thought. And going to a cleaner system is also a difference because people don't get the same front end. So they get different reports and things like that. So that's causing a bit of heartache for people. So the things are they are challenging. And I think that's something there. And I suppose my biggest worry about the SAP market is that if we don't do this transition to S4 right, then it could be that the SAP market starts to shrink again and becomes less exciting and less dynamic. So it's down to the people working with it to put the new SAP solutions in correctly and extend it and use it and make it a future-proof platform that can keep upgrading and updating. And I think some customers will get there, but some will just build the same stuff they had before, and that will cause problems later on. I think eventually SAP will make more and more of their functionality just available in the public cloud, not the private cloud. And that means that you have to be on a fairly clean system. You have to be able to take new releases, and you have to have a cloud mindset. And I think that not being achieved is a risk. And in terms of employment, I think there's plenty of work to go around for at least the next 5 or 6 years. After that, it depends how well it's been put in as to how that continues. If it's put in well, then I think SAP will be a vibrant market for many years to come.
So as exciting a trajectory that we're on with SAP, we're still yet to reach that real tipping point to know if this is going to enable an accelerated, continued growth path, or if it could, in fact, create a moment of turmoil.
Yeah, I don't know, turmoil, but just fine, I suspect, not turmoil. I think what will happen is that the ramp up to get all these very large S4 projects, it's by and large happened. I think the type of skills that you need are changing. So to start off, it's all roadmaps and business cases, then it moves into design, and then it moves into industrialized delivery. And by and large, we're at the point where it's moving to industrialized delivery. So the skills that you need are far more sort of project management and benefits delivery rather than identifying benefits and writing nice business cases. So I think the type of skills are changing a little bit as we go through that cycle. The type of customers is going to change, because from the very large or mega customers, it's going to go into these mid-sized ones and smaller ones who are probably going to be slightly more industrialized. So you're going to see that changing. But still, there's such a lot to go at. There'll be lots and lots of opportunities going forward. So yeah.
How do you see it evolving in terms of kind of geographies and industry, if at all?
So there's been different industries gone first and different geographies gone first in terms of the growth of the SAP market recently. And certain places adopt SAP quickly, and their mindset is very much one of doing things quickly and planning. So Germany stands out as somebody who started doing their S4 programs quickly. Not surprising, it's a German company. I think Scandinavia came pretty close after that. I think France is now caught on, and everybody who started doing that. America is a mixed bag. I think America is a bit more, they do things faster, and they do things, they do things quicker. In terms of geography, you've also got the Asia Pac tends to be a little bit more slightly following, I think, in terms of where the journey to S4. There's still plenty to do there. And then you get into industries. Now, my view is industries that are heavily disrupted went to S4 first. So you saw quite a lot of retailers looking at it quickly because they wanted to do new things to compete with the likes of Amazon and people like that. And then you also saw automotive, who had all the stuff with EVs and electrification, having to change their business process. They thought, we've got to change it, or we've got to change SAP. We may as well do it on S4. And then some of the very large life science companies went very early because they knew it would take them a long time to do all the validation and what they've got. And then it's spreading through other industries. So there's more diversified manufacturers still got to start or are just beginning. And there are life science companies that they've all started. And then government. But government's woken up to it. Government systems tend to be finance, HR, and procurement, so they're not too hard to do, and they're doing it now. Some of the big tax ones, things like that. It's been, there is a trend by industry. I think it's the amount you disrupted and how long it's going to take you has driven that. Then size, the biggest ones started, the next layer down is going now, and then there'll be a huge number of smaller ones to do. So there's lots and lots of different dynamics going on. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Exciting times. What do you see as the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the actual SAP professionals today?
See, I'm not sure there's challenges. I think most of the challenges are down to them. First of all, get onto an S4 project. Get onto a program that's using S4. So that will be something that will be very important. I think RISE is going to be how everybody does everything. So RISE is the cloud version of SAP for private cloud. So don't, trying to not you go to Rise probably not be a great idea. So get on a Rise project if you can. Don't do the old school ABAP type development, get into the BTP stuff and the multi-cloud space. If you can work out how the Rise contract works, if you can work out how BTP and the multi-cloud solutions work, if you can do end-to-end value stream mapping, then you're going to be in a really good place. So these are really tweaks to people to make them more value or more marketable. And then I think there's certain new modules that will always come along. There's a lot of extended warehouse management and transportation management and IBP at the moment, but they will normalize in a couple of years when the products are secure, but then there'll be another one. So keeping your skills up to date, thinking end to end, thinking cloud, thinking in a more agile way, less of a sort of dull documentation way, will keep you attached. And then after that, it's just the normal skills that you can get on with customers and end users and all that sort of stuff. Then you will always do well. So if you can't get onto S4, then it's going to get harder and harder as there's more skills available. If you can't do BTP, it's going to get harder and harder to get those skills. If you don't understand Rise, or you continue to just do the old school on-prem stuff, eventually you'll run out of road. If you are 2 or 3 years off retirement, maybe that'll be fine. But if you're a young professional starting out today, I would be looking at the newer stuff and how it all fits together. Yeah.
Brilliant. With all these trends and all the things that we've discussed so far, how is your workplace, our CapGemini, really capitalizing on these trends?
The first thing is the market has consolidated over many years. There used to be an awful lot more SAP partners out there than there are today. So a lot of them have been bought or rolled into something, or people have taken their eye off the ball. And if you look at the people who used to be based around hosting, I don't want to talk about names of the companies, but a lot of people used to, their offer was, we do hosting, therefore we can do your SAP project. Well, the hosting thing has disappeared now. So they're struggling. And then the people who, and then you've got other people like the accountancy firms who've done SAP, but then they are based around accountancy firms who are partnerships, whatever. So pretty much CapGemini and not many other firms can deliver everything that's needed to do SAP from one end to the other, understand all the cloud technology, and can work anywhere in the world and has the right blend of onshore, offshore, right shore, near shore, access to resources like yourselves and things like that. So positioning yourself for that is probably where we've done very nicely indeed. And that's where I am. But there'll be other people. For example, saw an offer yesterday from one of the pure plays, which is pretty much migrating to a new platform free of charge and hope they'll get the support, which is perfectly valid, which maybe is a different style of work. There's other people who concentrate on the mid-market and industrializing and doing multiple projects at the same time, and they're doing that. So it depends where you want to put your flag in the ground. So some people put it in certain areas and some people put it in others. But the business is growing for everybody. And if you're failing within the S4 market at the moment, then probably you're doing something quite wrong. You could carve out a position. You could come up with a strategy that would work either for your sector that you chose at the moment or a different sector or a different segment. I think experience has become really important. You can't go and work in a life science company without having life science experience. I mean, 30 years ago, you just needed SAP experience. Now you need to know how to do batch release of drugs and things like that. So that's become important. And people, the quality of the people, the availability of staff is really important. But pretty much you decide which part of the market you're going for and decide what you're going to stand for and fight the ground. It can't be everywhere. So we're not going to suddenly start selling to 50 million turnover companies who we've not got a relationship with. So that's not really our style. So we decided where we stand.
Flag in the ground?
Yeah. So we put our flag in the ground about transforming leading businesses from end to end. And that's what we've done and built that capability. And we spent a lot of money on tooling, making sure we've got an end-to-end solution. SAP has good tooling, but it probably has some gaps and probably doesn't account to the non-SAP bits. And the ability to do that is really important. So you're on, because of the consolidation, you're on quite a short list of partners who can do things pretty much as soon as the procurement starts. And some people have favorites and some people don't. And we have a series of long-term relationships with clients. But so I'm not sure quite what you want me to say. But if I was going to start an SAP firm today, I would pick which part of the market I'm going for decide what I'm going to do, and then be very good at it, and then probably be all right. Whether that's mid-market, small ones, manufacturing firms. And this firm set up with just do digital manufacturing, which is a new technology. Everybody loves it. We would all partner with them, and they've carved out a niche very quickly. There's other people who do data and archiving old data, and there's so many things to do. So just be good at the thing you want to do. Yeah.
No, brilliant. I suppose part was more around giving you some PR, right, in terms of what Capgemini.
No, it's very kind. I don't think I'm going to do that in terms of advertising Capgemini. I think the market is quite mature. You've got your Gartners and your Forresters and your IDCs and people like that, and your SAP. There's a limited number of premier partners. And I think our ability to deliver end to end, wherever you want, everything you need in large organizations with all the tooling, with everything you want. And I'd say another trend emerging, which is having to work with multiple partners. So in most of the large clients, there's more than one partner involved, and your ability to collaborate is very important. But yeah, that's good. I'm very happy to just want to have an opinion. If people like it, that's great.
Yeah, good. So we've gone into the advice piece. You've covered that off. So if we go to, what do you see are the kind of the skills and the qualifications that are in the most demand for SAP professionals at the moment?
You get certification is important, I think, particularly when a product is new. We at Gemini certify an awful lot of people, but once the product's in the market and it's been used for a while, then it's probably more about the reference projects you've got that count. So I think qualifications at the moment, you can show you've got certification on BTP, if you've got certification on RISE or any of the new components, transport or EWM and those sort of things. It's really important you can do those things. And understanding the newer way of doing it. So the SAP implementation model approach is very important in showing what you're doing there. That ability to think beyond just the SAP product and what happens either end would be very good. And having that sort of cloud mindset is very good. Being able to talk to people. I always see SAP consulting as being like a three-legged thing. First of all, you need industry skills. You need to have good technology skills, and then you have to have good people skills. And I think it's quite hard to survive without people skills. That will be the one that would be the one people really worry about. If you haven't got reasonably good people skills and you're upsetting everybody, then it doesn't matter how good you are technically or how good you are in your industry, you're still going to struggle. So people skills will be the first one. Technology skills you can learn, and industry skills you can pick up, or you might bring them into the role in the first place. So I'd see those being the most important. And then being able to talk about the future. I would also encourage anybody of doing SAP to establish a broader view than just their module or just even SAP. Understanding other technologies, understanding trends in the market, understanding what SAP's view on AI, understanding what's driving the SAP market, understanding what the other products do. So why is Salesforce very successful in the CX area? Why is it? Is it a better product, or is it because they've got a different community or a different way of implementing? Understanding all that stuff probably is the icing on the cake that makes you a bit special compared with a person who really has in-depth module skills. So understanding all that stuff. And I think not being too much of an SAP purist and just insisting, what's the question? The answer is SAP. Well, the answer doesn't have to be SAP. You can do what you want to do in SAP or slightly next to it, extending it, or with a different product attached to it now. So that kind of different mindset. And if there's people out there still doing enormous bespoke developments of SAP to meet strange demands that the client has, then I would recommend they stop doing that and start thinking about what other products they could do where they could develop that functionality outside SAP. So yeah, the same things apply around basic skills, get certified in the new stuff and position yourself for that. There is clearly a tension in the market at the moment between, I think, German mid-sized manufacturing companies wanting to stay on their own old releases and use their old technology and what SAP wants them to do. I think that's going to work its way out over the next couple of years. If you looked at as I said, the large customers, none of them were particularly thinking they would to S4 and use it wall to wall. They are now. So I think that will happen in the other markets as well.
Excellent. Looking at kind of the role of recruitment in SAP and SAP careers, how has recruitment helped you advance your career specifically?
I've never been recruited really. So my role has been, I worked for one firm, I got bought again, and then I got fired, and then I got work for Capgemini, who I was approached through via SAP. Recruitment did not help me advance my career at all. And I honestly never look for a job, I've always done my best in the role I've got. It's not been for that. But I think from my perspective, the recruiters have an enormous knowledge of the market and an enormous market knowledge of what's available and what's not available and what's going on and the sentiment. And I think if you lose touch with your recruitment partners and market and who you talk to, then you miss out on a vast opportunity to learn about what you need to do and what you need to know about the market and what's going on. I've got a few recruiters that I talk to, and if somebody says to me, do you know, recently there was an HR product somebody wanted to know, do you know this? And I went, I don't think we do. And then I asked a couple of recruiters who said, no, we don't, there's nobody available. And that immediately gave me an idea that we probably couldn't help them, but nobody else could. So maybe we had to look at an alternative or train somebody, that kind of stuff. And recruiters understanding recruiters and them understanding you, I think is really important in terms of if you can tell them the industries that you're interested in, what you're learning, what's going on, and they share that you can guide yourself in the right way. I personally would love to see people's CVs that say they get progression within a company before they start moving. And I see a lot of CVs where people just move from to firm, possibly moving up a level or just getting another role. But that's just filling roles. That's not actually moving a career forward. So looking for career progression, structured, and possibly then getting progression with the company and then moving is something I would like to see. But I think a close relationship with a pool of recruiters is important to know what's going on. I do think some people get a bit overexcited about it, that they're constantly looking for a new role and a new job, and that becomes their focus rather than being good at the one they've got and then getting moved forward and then looking for a new job when you're being let down or you're ready for that next big move. So just a few extra pounds here or there. I know that's difficult when you're a graduate and you've got bills to pay and a student loan and things like that, but I think showing some progression and then moving and then taking a logical step rather than just chasing money is probably a good thing.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Well, obviously, I hear the fact that you've never had to use a recruiter to obviously advance your career, because obviously you've gone on that growth.
Never say never. Never say never. Never say never. I always feel that one day I will need a recruiter and I'll probably need to take a contract. So,
but putting that part to one side, that you've not used a recruiter to find a job, obviously you mentioned there about how recruiters essentially are a great source of eyes and ears in the wider market, right?
Yeah.
Sort of intel, guidance. Have recruiters been instrumental in you building and scaling teams that have enabled you to go and deliver great things, though?
Yeah.
And that's part of your career as well, right?
Yeah, no, I, for one, believe in recruiters. I think they're important. And I think establishing a call, a regular cadence with them and getting to know them is really important. And they get to know you. So you end up getting better quality candidates. They spot people, they recommend more people. So I think they're worth investing in, the recruiter. You don't just treat them as a supplier. You've got to actually treat them as a partner. And you get that much better resources. I see recruitment as being a bit of a super tanker. Once you get it going, it's difficult to turn off and it takes a little while to get it going. But when it's going well, it's almost unstoppable because you get a recruiter who understands you, who gets into a rich stream of good candidates and finds you another one. They know people and get more like that. Building that relationship with recruiters, making it a partnership and informing them about the direction and what you're looking for is really good. I think what I look for in a recruiter is trust. So if I say, have you got someone who's got this? What I want to hear is, no, we haven't. Or that's impossible. I don't want to hear, yes, we've got one of these and find out they're not. So honesty. I think being willing to share is good. And I do get tired of the threats of recruiters coming along and this other SI would have that person, or you're not quick enough, you're not paying us. That kind of stuff is a bit tiring. We are a partnership and we work at the speed that we can work at, not anything else. What else do I looking for a recruiter? There are a number of people who I would refer to as legends of the SAP world who I've seen apply for jobs over many years repeatedly. I'd really like it to be filtered out because pretty much I can, don't think someone like me who's been doing 30 years of SAP won't know what projects people have been working on, probably know the project manager, probably know whether it's a success or a failure, and probably know they can wrap it up whatever they want. If I know they've worked on a large implementation that failed, they can hide it behind a major manufacturer or something. I will know what it is. So there's no point really wrapping things up. And an experienced person probably might fall for it. But then do you want to work for somebody who doesn't really know the SAP market? So I think honesty, but it's worth the investment. And then getting the right candidate. In many cases, I've helped recruiters find candidates and said, why do you look in this area? Why do you look at this project? Why do you look at the sort of people we want? And once you get it going, You can get onto, with 1 year, we recruited 4,500 people, I think 2021 or something like that. And we couldn't have done that without recruiters. I think a third of them were sourced through other routes, but the rest came through recruiters. And it's really important to get it working. And differentiating between recruiters is really difficult. So anybody who phones up and says, I'm a recruiter, I'm brilliant, you go, why? And so to be introduced, I would recommend a speciality. So if somebody comes up to me and say, I understand you're about to win a retail job, I've got 6 retail people, that might be very interesting. And then you might get in and get on the PSL and get invited to all the job spots. But just saying, I know all the best people isn't really going to cut it, because it probably won't be true. And then if the first batch of CVs are all people you recognize and go, I know them, they're out with every recruiter in the world, then it's not really worth it. So a bit of specialism initially, and then trust that allows you to try them out for things. But I do believe that recruiting is a really important channel for SIs to get to know people and get to know the market. And it works both ways, because clearly as many customers as we do, and saying, I know Dave, he's a good lad, and think that really works well.
No, brilliant. Are there any kind of specific resources or publications that you recommend for SAP professionals, people who want to stay updated, who are keen to follow the industry?
I would say follow me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn probably gives me everything I need. And then from there, you need a sense of curiosity to follow up on the things you don't really understand. If I see something that says, we can magically take your ECC system, convert it to S4 and put the data somewhere else, I want to know what that actually means, and then I'll follow it up. But usually most of the stuff I get in terms of the first contact is through LinkedIn. And then if it's a really exciting point, then I'll go and chase it up and find out. So I've had that this week. Somebody said they could do something, and I thought, really? So I went and phoned them up and said, can you? And then they explained it. And I thought, you don't quite do what I thought, but what you're saying is interesting and useful. And I would, if I was going to do that, I would just be on LinkedIn and learning stuff all the time, and always remain curious and always remain interested in what's going on. And don't think you can ignore something. AI might not be affecting your particular part of your SAP system at the moment, but it will. So have a point of view about it. RISE might not be what you're doing on your current client, but the next one will. So think about that. Cloud, extensibility, clean core, have a point of view, and those sort of things. So I would go and do all those stuff. And as I said, I've never really gone through a recruitment agency to get a role, but honesty is good. I think, what do I tire of? I tire of people who say, I hope this is a pet hate, but I really tire of people putting committed, passionate, things like that. I'd much rather see competent, helpful, or something like that. Passionate doesn't deliver SAP projects, knowing what you're doing and being sensible delivers SAP projects. So that would be a bit honest. If somebody says, I don't know very much about this, but I'd like to learn, that's great. Very happy. If you're willing to compromise on your sort of expectations of salary, that's absolutely fine. We'd want those people as well. But then trying to say you're an expert on something and turning up, you'll fail. But coming in and saying, I really want to learn it, you might well get through. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Some really great insights there and input. So thank you so much for your time. As a final, before I let you go, what would you say you are most excited about in SAP right now?
What I'm most excited about is getting everybody onto S4, getting a clean core, getting a cloud surround, and making SAP the heart of people's digital transformations, and doing some exciting new stuff with it, which we hadn't thought of possible. So I'm old enough not to get so excited by an upgrade or implementing a new GL. What I really want to do is start providing configurable motorcycles where you can choose different bits and you pay a rental price and it gets upgraded all the time, or developing a new system of green energy or nuclear reactor, something like that sort of stuff, really putting SAP at the heart of it. I don't read a lot of business sections, but I read the business bit of the Times every weekend, and you can go through it with a highlighter and ring fence the things that are actually an SAP program, whether it's somebody buying somebody or somebody selling somebody or somebody building a new product or whatever. And you can just go through it and go, look at all the things we're actually achieving. And then you can tell your friends and relatives. It'd be a very boring party, but if you went to somebody and said, look, we're doing that, and we're doing that, and we're doing that, it's exciting. And I want to see SAP at the heart of business going forward, and for people to realize that, and it would be really relatable. And that's not upgrades and bits of tech. That's really transforming businesses and doing new stuff. And some of the greatest successes that are going on at the moment, whether that be new stuff in different industries or new business models, have got SAP at the heart of it. And I just want to see more of that. Few specific things. I'd like to see SAP taking back a lot of ground from Salesforce. Don't see why people are using Salesforce. I would like to see that. I'd like to see a new generation of young people coming to the SAP industry and doing one of these interviews in 34 years time and sounding old and stuff like that, like I did. I think it's a great career, and I know a little bit about lots what a great position to be in. So it's lovely.
Oh, brilliant. David, thank you so much for your time.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.